Ray Higgins, Mr. Scott Cole, Mr. Jim Potter, Mr. William Paul. We have Attorney Aztec and Engineer Charlie Myers here. I am Marty Penner. We do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Next, I'd like to open it up for public comment, and if we could, for public comment, if anybody that wants to say anything, if they could just come up to the front. I think Ron saved the seat for you next to him, and then you can address the board so that, and speak loud enough. We do not have a mic, but if you could speak loud enough so that the reporter can hear you and be able to take your comments down, that would be very much appreciated. So I'll open that up. Anybody you'd like to go first?
Jonathan Erler, 280 South Creek Drive, current Board of Supervisor member. Good afternoon, Mount Bethel residents. I'm here as a courtesy to inform you, in case you were on vacation, indisposed, or under a rock for the last month. The municipal authority was dissolved on March 11th of this year by the board. The current Upper Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors does not recognize this council in any official capacity, power, or authority, and it does not speak for the township or its people therein. Thank you very much for your time, your lawsuits against the township, and I will now head to TK's for beer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Make sure we stay under the legal limit, but enjoy. Next. Anybody else? Ron.
I just want to say how nice it is to be to a meeting in Upper Mount Bethel Township where there's not a stopwatch on the front table that limits you to 3 minutes. Thank you for that. I've heard you and all of them.
Well under 3 minutes. Good job, bro. Anybody else? Okay. Let's move on to number 3, governance. We will have the approval of the minutes. Has everybody on the board seen the minutes that are attached? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes from 2/13 of 24? Motion's made by Mr. Hall.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, I will move it over to.
Sorry. 5 mics are off. The light's not on, the mic's not on.
Remember, light on, mic on. Okay. Jim, yours is off, just so you know. Scott, bill list, please.
Mr. Chair, I have a total of 8 bills totaling $14,025.18. I received the last 2 late this evening, so I have a total of 8 that need to be paid, and I'm looking for approval to be able to pay them.
Okay. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Mr. Hall. Any further discussion? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Pinter. Is there any reason why we can't have these bills listed? What are the bills?
The bills would be legal, engineering, and
I have technical
and technical, so the build of the website, that stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of 5-0. Okay. So next is the office lease. We have included the lease of 2418 North Delaware Drive, which is an office that consists of 2 offices, a conference room, as well as a file room, all wired for technology. And that lease is set as a month-to-month lease for $500, which is the cheapest thing that we could find. We had another in Portland that was $1,800 a month. But that's what we have. Is there any questions, discussion on the lease?
Marty, what's the location of that office?
The location is at the Teal Realty, which is the second floor, which is unoccupied.
Just for my own understanding, have you sent that out yet or no?
The lease I did email out to you. I don't know if you've all received it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion for the lease of $500 a month?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Hall. Is there a second for Mr. Hall's motion?
I can second that one.
Okay, and seconded by Mr. Cole. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. So just as the township, because we are dealing with funds, we need to set the treasury bond. And to do that, we needed to kind of calculate what that monetary, or I'll say turnover, would be in the upcoming months, as well as how much we would handle basically in bills on a month-to-month basis. Also, in regards to the bond, it protects the treasurer as well as the board in regards to if there is any financial issues in regards to that. Those of you that know the township, I would always ask that the bond be set at the total cash assets that the township had. So not only what was in the general fund, but as well as all of the other funds. So open space, the $2.5 million or $2.7 million that were in it, and any other funds that we may have in at least liquid asset cashes. So typically my last year we had a $6 million bond because that's what we had in cash, although albeit the general fund being $3 million, the open space being 2.7, and some other of our investments, we had cash on hand. So with that, of course, the municipality doesn't have $6 million cash on hand. But what I would like to do is set the treasurer's bond at about $125,000. That could handle any influx with that. If there are any, shall I say, grants or anything along with that, if we get to that point, then we can adjust the bond at that time. But at this time, I don't see any further request other than $125,000 bond for the treasurer. Are there any questions with that? Scott, you're good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Ray, any questions?
No.
Okay. Anything to add, Council? Okay. So with that, is there a motion to set the treasurer bond at $125,000?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Been motioned by Mr. Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Potter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, in your packet, we had two requests from our first meeting when we asked for letters of anybody that was interested in being the municipal secretary and handling, of course, the meetings, meeting minutes, as well as being the point person for the open records officer, since they would have the ability to act on that within our timeframes that we're legally bound by to do so. Those two letters are within your packets, and the hourly wage for this opportunity and position, a part-time position, would be $27.50 an hour. Okay,
The only two we received one.
those were the only two that we received. The two that we received were from Ms. Tracy DeFranco, as well as Mr. Ed Nelson. Those were the two that put in for the position, and the two that we must consider so that we can appoint our open records officer this evening. Any discussion? Anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion, we hire Tracy DeFranco.
Okay. Second. There's a second for that. Any further discussion? Okay. And hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Congratulations, Tracy. Motion passes 5-0. As an add-on, number 5, would like to appoint Ms. Tracy DeFranco as the open records officer, so any right to knows will need to be forwarded to her, as she will be in contact with our counselor on any right to knows that we receive from the public and or other entities. So, is there a motion to appoint Ms. Tracy DeFranco as the open records officer?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Cole. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Hall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Again, congratulations, Tracy. Okay. Next on the action items is the RPL and the UMBT Municipal Agreement. Those of you in the audience will remember that this is the agreement that's been on the website for the township that we felt needed to be worked on in regards to making sure that the township was and is properly protected into the future with the design and build of the sewer plant when we get to that point. With that, the board had discussions with our counselor as well as with our engineers on separate days so that we were not all on calls at the same time. And we came up with a pretty, I'll say, substantial changes to the agreement that make sure that the township is very much protected and that we have, the township has control in regards to testing both before, during, and after the construction that I believe would be a little bit more than what is required by law. Now, in regards to that, I'll hand it off to Charlie Myers from Barry Iceland to really kind of overview that and the changes that when he reviewed the document that he would have liked to see from an engineering standpoint to make sure that the township was in a more protected light. Charlie?
Sure. And the approach to the agreement was looking at what was in it and what was not. And in several locations, the primary focus was on making sure that the township authority was not forced to accept something that was not up to par. So every step of the way, the authority has the right to review. The authority does not have any responsibility to take over any system that is not functioning adequately to protect the environment, whether that be financially or from in the case of the sewer, a discharge point, or in the case of the water, for water production. So the developer is responsible to create and pay for both a water system and a sewer system that meet the requirements, all the regulatory requirements of the state, the DRBC, and local laws. And there's no takeover until the financial aspects and technical aspects are running correctly.
So, and top of that, it's been called out in regards to bonds, construction bonds, performance bonds, that the developer needs to possess for the township in case anything were to happen, that the township is properly covered. So something happens halfway between the build, Chapter 7 or 1113 happens, that the performance bond can then be called and the plant can be completed, and it will be at no cost to the township, as well as performance bonds. So after the plant is completed, that if it doesn't meet certain performance KPIs, that they will be held responsible, and that they will be held financially responsible to fix those issues with the plant for the comfort and the safety of the township. So on a financial end, I wanted to make sure that we were covered not only through the beginning, and that we had the ability to have our engineer, and in some cases, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, but a third-party engineer that's not associated with either the developer and the township, to really be a third party, and a lack of better terms, I would say a mediator at a part of maybe impasse, whether that be through design, operation, or any part of the construction of the plant and the operation of the
That is correct.
Okay. This agreement was negotiated and prepared pursuant to the authority that was granted to the authority by the Board of Supervisors to be responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of the community and to protect the environment. So everything that went into this on behalf of the municipal authority was designed to follow through and protect each and every one of those interests. We have oversight, inspection, design, through completion of the project. So I want to thank Charlie for all the hard work that he put into this, because this really constituted a rewrite of what we had originally been provided with, and of course the board's close and careful examination of this. Make no mistake about it, the authority is entering into this agreement pursuant to the mandate by the Board of Supervisors.
Are there any other comments by the board? I know in calls with each of you after your meetings, that you felt that the process of going through and reviewing both on a legal end as well as an engineering end, that you were all very comfortable with the outcome of it, as each one of you had concerns with the original agreement, and that I believe from our conversations that your concerns as a board, I know Jimmy, you had some that I believe were taken care of, especially with your knowledge being down in Portland, that you believe we have a good agreement here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other comments from the rest of the board? I know, Ray, you were very concerned in regards to the testing and wanted that stuff really ironclad before that, and I believe that was the first thing we talked about.
Yeah, we addressed
And
before,
we-
during, and after. This way we know that we're getting what's safe.
Exactly. Okay. Bill, any comments from yourself?
No, I had a similar concern as Ray did, but I think we addressed all that.
So with that, is there any motion to move forward with the new agreement that has been discussed and negotiated?
You looking for a motion?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'll make that motion.
Okay. Been motioned by Mr. Cole. Is there a second to Mr. Cole's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Mr. Potter. Any further discussion in regards to the board? Okay, and hearing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. In the makeup of the agenda, we do have a couple of legal issues that we need to discuss. As you heard Mr. Erler before he left for his adult beverage, we have a lawsuit against the town that we need to discuss in executive session. So we will recess at this time. It is 6:24. So we will break into executive session at this time. We will be back out with any discussion and motions that we may derive from this. All right.
We expect this executive session to be rather brief.
Yes. Thank you. All right, let the record show that we are back in session at 6:51. We had a discussion of the lawsuit that the authority has against the township in regards to the sunshine law violation that's, that they had done, but they had corrected in their meeting a week later. So, am I correct in that, shall I say, overview?
Yeah.
Of what the lawsuit was?
For a couple of reasons, it might be wise to just discontinue the suit. Number one, when they learned that they had violated the sunshine law, clearly violated the sunshine law, they acted quickly to try to correct it. So big mistake. They recognized it. And yet we could still pursue the matter. We could pursue it for counsel fees and costs, violation of official action on their part. They should have known better. These elected officials are presumed to know the law and are presumed to follow the law. And when they do something as blatantly wrong as that, they can be held to task. Not only did we claim that they violated the sunshine law, but they also violated sections 7 and 20 of Article 1 of the Constitution. So there was a constitutional claim that was clearly set forth. I think in a gesture of good faith, although they still have refused to meet with us, despite repeated requests to do so, and in a gesture of good faith, and in an effort to let them know that we truly are acting in the best interest of the citizens of the township, that we discontinue the action so they don't have to incur any more counsel fees or have to be fined for their misbehavior in adopting that resolution. So that would be my recommendation to the board, that we discontinue the action to save the taxpayers additional money to avoid having to pay for the errors of their supervisors.
Okay. With that, is there a motion that anybody on the board would like to make?
I'll make a motion that we withdraw the lawsuit against the supervisors at this point.
Okay. Is there a second to Mr. Higgins' motion?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Potter. Any further discussion? In hearing none, all those in favor of Ray's motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Solicitor, you can tomorrow please make the necessary changes for the withdrawal of the lawsuit.
I will. Next, so as a follow-up, after having withdrawn their resolution 2024-06, within 1 week, they then adopted a virtually identical resolution 2024-07, which, as we heard tonight, they seem to think terminated the authority. Well, I think it's the position of the authority that is simply not the case. They haven't killed us, they haven't terminated us, and we do not deem resolution number 2024-07 as having any legal significance other than a mere request that we simply commit suicide. And I'm not quite sure that this board has that intention. I'd like to point out a couple of things. Number one, the resolution that they adopted just simply directed us to take action to terminate. It did not terminate. So they're asking us to take certain actions, and if the board chooses not to take those actions, then we haven't dissolved, nor have we terminated. That's number one. Number two, even more significantly, and to compound the error that was made in Resolution 2024-06, they make reference to 53 PA CSA 6519. That statutory reference does not exist. I think there may have been a proofreading error by someone at the township level. So they're asking us to do certain things and citing a statute that does not exist and does not provide either them the authority to ask us to terminate, provide them the authority to terminate us. It's a, they say, it's a nullity. And other thing that they did, which is I would suggest kind of preposterous. They said that if we don't do what they are asking us to do, they're going to fine us $100 a day. There's absolutely no statutory authority for that. They just made it up, like a lot of the things that they've been trying to do. So, my suggestion is, based upon my review of this resolution, the board provide some sort of direction as to whether or not you want to commit carry suicide, or you just completely ignore Resolution 2024-07.
Okay. So, under the advisement that we just heard from Attorney Aztec, does anybody want to make the motion to dissolve? If you believe that we should dissolve as the township authority, please make a motion to the board. Okay, there is no motion to dissolve. Secondly, is there a motion to continue authority business as we move forward as outlined in the Municipal Authorities Act that was approved by the Board of Supervisors?
I'll make that motion to continue, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there a second for continuation? Seconded by Mr. Hall. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries to continue business, passes 5-0. With that being said, I believe we are complete with tonight's meeting. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Marty, before you adjourn, can I just address to the people the faces that come here all the time, so they have an idea a little bit more of where we're coming from?
Absolutely right. Go ahead.
So, we come here voluntarily. We can be home with our families. We don't have to do this. We come here because we live here and we care about this place. And, the supervisors have tried to pit the citizens against us that we're here doing the wrong thing. We're not. And if you heard what they talked about earlier, we all had concerns with what was proposed, and we made changes. And the lying and the back and forth has to stop. People have to understand what is going to happen. If they dissolve us, and it is private or run by the state, we have zero control. They will tell you who is going to hook up to it. They will tell you how it's going to be run. They will tell you when they are going to test it. Not the amount of tests we've asked for. You're going to get once a month, once every 3 months. We want it bi-weekly. We have things in here that we've tried to put in here to protect the people that are going to be close to it, that live here, that come to our businesses that we see around. We're not here against anybody. We're here because we want to do the right thing. And the supervisors can paint it any way they want, say anything they want, walk in, walk out, and no one holds them accountable. It's a bunch of crap. Start holding these people accountable. It's our damn town, and they're going to ruin it. We're going to have 9 warehouses with 9 septic systems, and we're going to get exactly what we don't want. So I hope somebody listens, and somebody that they will listen to actually talks to them, because we're going in the wrong direction as a town. And if people don't want to open their eyes and see that, then it is what it is. But there are plenty of us that can see that something is going to happen there. And either we're gonna have control of it by boards like this, or we're going to lose control of it and we will get whatever hell goes there. That's about all I have to say.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay. With that, again, is there a motion? Sure, yeah, why not? Go ahead, Mark.
Well, the statute that the council recognizes.
Please stand up and your name and address, please.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Woods. You guys are not the first board of directors of an authority to deny a township resolution to dissolve. You're going to find out what happens. I think you want to say that you're doing the best for the town. The town does not recognize this any longer. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Pinter, you put yourself in this position while you were the chairman of the board, okay? The motivation for you to continue is above and beyond what normal civil service motivation would be. I don't see how you guys can continue moving this way. The town does not want this. The election should have proved it.
Does the town want it to be private where we have no control?
You don't know what's gonna happen.
I know once it's out of our control, it's in someone else's hands. So if you know something I don't know, please tell me.
I know that you haven't studied it and you don't have a solid factual basis for your opinions right now. You're entitled to those opinions, and I respect that. But you gotta make sure that you're making fact-based decisions as we've gone forward. This did not evolve this way.
Okay.
I can't argue with how it evolved. I can just tell you that at some point I was asked to come on this, and I'm giving you honest opinions from what I see and hear. I'm not somebody that sits on a bunch of boards. I came on this because I thought it mattered, and it does matter. And instead of everybody fighting, what we're saying is the supervisor should have worked with us right from the beginning, because it does matter what happens. And if we lose control of what happens up there with the sewer, you'll get whatever you get. If the state runs it, they'll test once every 3 months. Then what? Then how do we know our residents are safe?
Don't agree with you.
We have requested on numerous occasions to meet with the Board of Supervisors, and we've been
You
met
don't
with
agree.
silence. Does that show good faith on their part? Silence is what we get, not even a no. It's like they're thumbing their nose at us,
Why should
and
they
that
meet-
is not.
Why should they meet with you? They have the authority to dissolve this authority.
The elections have
It's in the
passed.
law. They can dissolve you guys. And they've chosen to do that.
But you guys are here, so you must think that we still do have the authority.
No, I'm here because we want to hear what you guys have to say.
So, Marty, may I?
I just want to go through.
I
Mark.
want to answer Mr. Metzger.
All right, then come up, please.
So I'm Mark Kaplan, and as most of you know, I represent RPL.
So Mark, before you start, just promise me you'll keep your cool. Okay.
Mark, look me in the eye while I give you all the facts that you keep telling people don't exist.
Careful, Councilman.
Just listen to me. It's starting in 2000. This township hired experts to investigate doing a sewer system. They spent, I forget how much money, and they.
Yeah, 187.
No,
Cut. Stop.
in 2004, another expert was hired and paid for by the township. And the recommendation was that you should join in with Portland Borough when it was building its sewer system. And the township elected not to do it. In somewhere around 2010, the township spent $20-some thousand with Castle Valley Consultants to do a report. And they did a report. All the testing that you and your cohorts keep saying doesn't exist, it exists. It was sent to DEP. DEP recommended that there be a sewer system. Now, let's get to what this gentleman is talking about. In 2018, this township spent somewhere around $150,000 with, okay, with Mr. Coyle. Mr. Coyle did every test imaginable. I have the entire report. He did every test imaginable. And in his report, he specifically recommended that exactly the kind of system that we are proposing should be developed. And the township, including Mr. Birmingham, who sits in these rooms with Coyle and does this colloquy with them, it says, oh, we don't have any information. Well, rhetorically, Mark, what did the township pay $170,000 for and approved a 537 plan, a sewer plan? What did they do that for? And the plan was approved by the township when John Birmingham was the chairman. And it said to do exactly what's being said now.
But the
Now, hold on,
DEP declined that.
hold on a
The
second.
DEP.
Hold on a second. So with that, Mark, if you remember, we had a big meeting here at the Firehouse where Rick Fisher, who was the township manager at that time, did a well over an hour presentation in regards to the issues that we had or are still having on 611 North Delaware Drive, where he pulled all of that testing that was done by that outside firm when we first talked about putting sewer and water along 611. And what's that?
That testing was 30 years old.
I hardly
It's gotten worse.
I mean,
How do you
I mean,
know?
septics don't get better, they get worse.
How do you know?
I put them in.
We don't know what's been done out there.
I'm a contractor, I put them in. Listen,
So-
I have a barn on
so-
611,
so-
come look at my water.
okay,
Let me finish.
so
Let me
Mark,
finish.
You drink my water, I won't drink it.
continue.
Let me finish. In addition to that, the report that Coyle prepared recommended exactly the same sewer system that we're now proposing. That's not 30 years ago. He said that if there's going to be development in the industrial area, it needs a sophisticated system. And he recommended the same system that we have, that we are not only recommending, but willing to pay for. And then, on top of that, our expert, who you've listened to for hours at the hearing, did his own study, did a planning module that's been reviewed twice by Coyle with minor comments. So it's about time that you and your group stop telling people that there's no information. There's a ton of information. This has nothing to do with information. This has to do with you trying to stop my client from developing his property.
But I want to say that
Simply not true.
what I do want to say is that even within the 537 plan, technically the 537 plan was a good plan. The issues that happened with the 537 plan is that we were not getting any cooperation with Portland and East Bangor. Okay? That's where the hang-up was in regards to the review of the DEP. The reason why we approved the 537 to send to the DEP was we were hoping that the DEP could help push Portland and East Bangor to get us the information that we needed to complete the 537 plan. If you go back and look at it, those are the major hang-ups that
Why
the
did
DEP
Portland
had.
give you guys such a hard time?
That goes back centuries.
Okay,
there's
no,
a simple, there's a
I'm
simple
I'm
answer
serious,
to
I'm
that.
serious about that, where way back when, and I mean, Ron could have been on the board at that time, where when the talk or the build of the Portland plant was happening and they were going to the state for their grant money. Now, this is what I'm being told when I first joined the board, was that when Mount Bethel was looking to help, I'd say, be a partner with them and have a joint authority for it, for a lack of better terms, there was a pissing match between the two boards that said, we have more people, 6,700 versus 500 down at Portland. We should have a majority of the board. And that's where this Hatfield and McCoy fractured relationship really started between Portland and Upper Mount Bethel. Okay. With East Bangor, I really don't know what happened there, but I know Justin reached out multiple times for the information that was needed. Now, whether or not that's because the plant maybe wasn't in good shape, it was, I don't know. They just didn't want to cooperate. I have no idea what that was. And then after that, because we submitted and it actually called out Portland and it called out East Bangor, that pissed Portland off even more, where it said we threw them under the bus. But I had gone down there multiple times with my hat in hand, being on the board to say, guys, we need to work together on this. Your plant needs gallonage to run more efficiently, where you're not spending a lot of taxpayer money buying tons of sugar to put into the plant. And we want to help you do that. And we tried, and it just never got off the ground. Like, I wish it was different. I really do wish it was different. But again, the 537 plan that we submitted was very technically done with all of the studies that were needed to show that.
Couldn't have leaned on Portland to allow Mount Bethel?
I think Charlie might be able to answer that because he does 537 plans.
They don't, unless there's a 537 issue or other sewer issue in front of them, they don't have a whole lot to hit them with, just from the basic of the way it works. If they come in for a new permit or something like that, then there might be, but outside of that, no, unfortunately.
Mike,
Because we've asked the same question and they have dodged that question of if there's I deal with several that are multi-municipality systems. So we asked in the last meeting we had with DEP, what happens if one of the municipalities doesn't sign on? Basically, the answer was if they come to us for something else, we can have some action there, but otherwise there was no action.
Did they build their system on government grants?
They did, but that was from the state. That wasn't from the DEP.
Okay.
That was our former senator that really was able to fund a lot of that money. Yeah, it was with that, and also the repairs and that type of stuff. So, I mean, it would be great for Portland. It would lower if they were to partner with us. Number one, it would absolutely lower the cost of the system for the 500 residents that were down there. I mean, they're paying a substantial amount of money.
Just went up again.
And it just went up again. I mean,
Mike,
because you're advertising it over the 500 people. That's not that's a small tax base to really leverage that cost for that plan, unfortunately.
And Mike, just to give you some idea, when we were formed, we went to a Portland meeting to introduce ourselves as the board and try to open a dialogue with them. They didn't even barely acknowledge that we were there, let alone talk to us.
You were introduced by Lupe.
But we still went in there. We went in there open-minded to start a dialogue with them. And we all talked to them individually outside of being introduced by. It doesn't matter who we're introduced by. We're trying to open a dialogue with them. And we couldn't get anywhere with it. There was no dialogue. So, you can't ask things, people can't expect us to be able to do things as a township when the township next to us will not even cooperate with us. Let alone, not us, not the supervisors. So it's almost like their hand has to be forced to do something.
And I reached out to their solicitor, who I happen to know, and suggested, that we sit down and talk. I got the same response as I got from the supervisors, no response at all. So, it's really unfortunate that, it's really unfortunate that grown adults are not able to sit down around the table and talk about things, but have to fight and argue.
Yeah, but you can agree to disagree and find a reasonable solution and not get all emotional and just operate from your position.
I think we're long past that.
Well, we're all adults,
I mean,
so.
we tried to do it back in 2017, 2018, and it was to the same thing. I mean, it's as, we wrote in our one meeting, we had asked, if you remember back to the supervisors meetings, that we wanted to get a capacity study done down at Portland, and the developer was going to pay for it. Well, that capacity study was done. It was completed in January. Okay. When we put in the right to know in March for the results of the capacity study, they said we need 30 days to get you or an extension. Well known that the capacity study was done in January. I mean, I don't know if they'll get back to me. I mean, the letter is March 19th. Here it is, 3 days. I can bet you that I'm not going to get it within 30 days. But that's just saying, what's the capacity study? What can we do to help you in regards to your capacity and help the plan? Yeah, it's disappointing because a lot of us have reached out. Now, whether or not personal feelings get in the way of being able to actively keep the community, I'll say, at the whole, in terms of helping their community and us helping ours, with an issue that we have with sewer and water, outside of even this. I mean, I wasn't happy about it when Rick Fisher was and said, man, we need this. And he was the sewer enforcement officer here for probably 15 years before he was the township manager. He knew exactly the issues that we saw wildcat sewers, where septic's empty directly into the creek that goes down behind into the wetlands, down at the end by the bridge. I mean, that's an environmental hazard as it is, and it's a serious safety issue in terms of anybody that lives along there and can have their groundwater contaminated because of that, and the wildlife that will die because of that stuff. It's crazy. But we could never get anywhere with it, and those issues still happen today. I don't think anybody along North Delaware Drive drinks their own water. I don't think you do. And that's sad. I mean, it's an extra expense.
Have you thought about getting Susan Wild involved? Try to be the go-between?
I don't know that the Secretary General of the United Nations could bring us together at this point. But we keep trying. We keep trying. I'm going to continue to keep trying. I would love to sit down with the Board of Supervisors and have a civil discussion with the tone that you hear from this table tonight. Would love to do that.
I'm sorry, Gary, there's another important fact. There's another critical factor that's not being taken into consideration. The COIL plan had no funding mechanism. And from what I can see from reading Rick Fisher's book, I have his book, I went all the way back. each time along the way, it was going to cost a lot of money. If you look in Fisher's book, there's one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen in this context. There were people saying, why should the rest of us spend money to take care of the people that you're talking about?
That's correct.
So all along that continuum, you're right. However, it got blown in like 2004 when the plant was to go in. The die was cast because all along it was going to cost money. Well, you just approved a contract that this development is going to pay for.
Mr. Kaplan is correct. In fact, one of the motivating factors here on behalf of the authority was that this is not going to cost the taxpayers a penny.
Yes, it is.
Let it, once, if in fact it falls back into the hands of the Board of Supervisors, it's going to come out of their pockets.
Wait a minute. Aaron, how can
So hold on,
it
Fran,
cost-
stop, so Mark, hold on a second.
So, this is something
So-
that we
so
were very
Fran-
mindful of.
So Fran, no, come on. And just give your,
Everything is getting really blown out of proportion.
no, I wanna hear your thoughts on how it's going to cost
It's gonna
the
cost
township
me.
money. How's it gonna cost you
It's
money?
gonna cost me
Why?
to run the pipe from my house all the way to the back of my house. I haven't got that kind of money to run a pipe for the store there.
Okay,
It's
now,
gonna cost me, if they put the 4-lane highway in, I may lose my home. And I came here to retire. I still have a mortgage. So what more, how could you, I mean, I moved here because it was a great town. And have you attended meetings since 2020
No,
to
but
hear what was going on?
I can tell you, I read that whole book, and not one of our supervisors took that book with them after that meeting, and if you'd like a
What
copy
book?
of it, I'll be glad to give you
What
one.
book? What book? I'm talking about, were you there when the text message?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I
Why
was
wasn't
not, but you think I have not researched and educated myself
Well, we
to,
kind of got screwed with the text
so-
message.
so Fran-
absolutely. In your mind, you feel like that, and we understand that, but if you notice, in this meeting, you can come up here and talk to us as long as you want, and nobody's gonna yell at you. Nobody's gonna scream at you or tell you you're wrong, you have your opinion. If you go to one of our supervisors' meetings, nobody can even
I
have,
go to all
I
the
know you do,
supervisor meetings. I
but
attend
nobody
the
can have a
board
civil
meetings,
conversation
planning
to
commission.
try to come up with the answers that best
So-
suit this town.
Yeah,
so hold on now. It's getting a little
but you
heated,
have
so
so
hold
many
on.
senior citizens that can't afford this.
And
We're on fixed income.
Where
I
where
worked all my
is
life to
these
live in a
costs come
house.
from?
I still have a mortgage on my house because I didn't buy it until 2001.
Fran, I wish the town, or I wish myself personally, or we could help you out in terms of your mortgage. I'll tell you what, if you pay mine, I'll pay yours.
Oh, no way.
Okay, I'll make a trade.
No way.
I'll make a trade. But listen, in terms of the hookup, okay, the 10-year projection for the plan, okay, two things. We will have more than enough money to pay for the hookups, not the homeowner, number one. Number two, the authority can give you the option to hook up. The plant is not dependent on, I'll say, the residential.
Well, not
The
now.
resident, never will be. The residential gallonage to support the plant financially, okay? When the town and the authority takes over the plant, there is no bond. So there will be nothing like Portland. Portland has a bond and payments on that plant that they have to pay back, okay? It would be like us getting a plant, free and clear, no mortgage, okay? The only thing that we would have is maintenance. Now, the maintenance on that plant is not until 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, your high depreciation costs, the big dollar things that you're going to have to replace in the plan are roughly 15 to 20 years down the road. Charlie, am I correct on that?
That's correct, and I think it's important to note that in the agreement and all the things set up, while there is capacity for something outside the industrial park to hook up, there isn't any provision to make it mandatory.
Mandatory.
So there isn't.
Well, is that gonna be in the document written
Absolutely.
down?
So
It's in there.
That's the document that we, that's
So
the document that we
Is that
signed
what it
tonight.
says, that the
There's nothing
Correct.
that mandates
Citizens
it.
of Upper Mount
Yes.
Bethel will have a choice either to hook up or not hook up when it runs the line down the road.
So the place that does the
I'm gonna
mandatory
look
hookups
till I
would be
find that
your,
document. Is that gonna be on our website?
would be
It's
the
gonna be on
township.
ours.
Oh,
It'll be on
well,
ours.
That, it would be through ordinances or
Probably
or because of how projects that are done, that mandatory hookups occur.
I'll see you after the meeting.
okay.
But
This is some of the misinformation that
But-
goes around.
that's why,
And we
don't
hear
want-
the other side of it, and we see the document, so we're trying to stand up here so you can ask us questions and we can answer them for you in a meeting that's not yelling.
Yeah, but this is the first time
Listen, you can come to me, I'll give you my cell phone, you can call me anytime, and if I can answer a
This is
question.
the first time I've heard that we have a choice.
Well, that's just it. There's so much misinformation out
I
there.
don't have a problem with my septic.
There's so much misinformation out there, and we're not allowed to talk and get it out at the Board of Supervisors meeting when there's questions.
They're scaring you.
Shut up and sit down.
They're
No,
scaring you, I
I
think.
can't say that.
but-
They're good people.
They're good people,
on board, too.
absolutely.
So they
And
are.
I can ask them questions too and get answers.
I agree with you, they're good people, and so are we, and somehow, and so are you, and somehow all of us need to come up with the answers
I know.
together,
To
as
help
a
the
township.
people. Right.
Like, your input is important to us.
Well, I've been.
But here's the problem, when you
So
go,
I've been around.
when you go to a supervisor's meeting, anybody that does not 100% agree with the supervisors gets shut down. They don't get to voice an opinion, you don't hear the other side, you don't hear the things like you don't have to hook up, because people are shut right down. We need open conversations in this town to be able to find out what the heck is right, so we can do this right, because it's going to happen.
Oh, well, I know that, and it's right in almost like my backyard. I'm not
So-
very happy about it, but it's gonna be there.
So Fran, big-
Something will be there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as a township, including you, including us, including the supervisor, as a township, we have to somehow figure out how to sit down and talk like human beings and come up with answers.
That's right.
Yeah, but you know, it builds up, builds up.
I understand, I'm new to this. I only
It
got
builds up
involved in this because I
there's
feel like
not
my
open
tap
dialogue
water
and
is
discussion to
crap.
exchange and correct the information that's wrong. And then you have this,
Yeah,
to where you can have.
So,
it.
The
Fran,
town says
our-
this, the town says dissolve and you say no. So there you
Wait,
go.
say that again?
It says the town says dissolve and you say no.
They,
So there you
they
are.
didn't, they asked us,
So don't sit there and say.
for
we're gonna
us
sit down
to
and we're gonna
dissolve.
talk, Okay, yeah.
oh, we asked to talk, Mark. They said.
they
said
didn't
yes.
tell us to dissolve, they asked us to dissolve ourselves. Now listen, I've debated, and I'll say it right in front of all of you, I debated resigning from here. Because I wanna do what's right, and if that means I walk away from this, and that's what I think is right, then that's what I'll end up doing. But at this point, I don't think that's right. I think we have to figure out how to get everybody together. Listen, I talk to Mike all the time that's sitting behind you, he's my friend. We don't agree on everything, but I'll damn well listen to him. I'll listen to you. You wanna sit down and have a one-on-one meeting anytime, I'll do it anywhere. Because I'd love to know what your answers are to fix these problems. But we damn well have problems right now, and we better come to figure out how to fix them as a township.
Fred,
Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. First, so much just got discussed, I don't even know how to approach this. I disagree that everyone who has a difference with this current Board of Supervisors gets shut down, because I am not in lockstep with them. For example, I would have spoken with you guys, all right? Now, on the other hand, just as I said in the supervisor meeting, they may have a legal reason why they chose to do what they did when they did it. I don't know. I'm not privy to your conversations with your in every meeting to say, I'm waiting for someone in this town to take the high road. All right? I have talked privately with our supervisors to say, guys, you need to open dialogues with people that maybe you don't agree with, and they listen. All right? So I'm going to ask you guys to keep working at taking the high road. That doesn't mean you roll over. I don't know if you're going to be dissolved or not. I've got one dog in this hunt. My dog, the dog I got in this hunt, everyone knows what my dog is. All right, that's at disposal. But I will say that please keep trying to take the high road. It does not help to get up in supervisor meetings and start attacking the supervisors. It may make you feel good, but Marty, we've talked personally. I hope you've got your frustrations with them out now, and now we can get down to business and get them to actually discuss. Just keep working at it. Look, I'm not gonna. Look, all of you, everyone here is doing something I have done. Ron has done something. You guys are stepping up and representing. All right, they're stepping up and representing. I'm not going to criticize people who get up and do what they're supposed to do. All right, Martin had asked me if I wanted to be on this board, and that I should have put something in, and I gave him my reasons why I didn't think I could. But keep trying to take the high road. You're dissolved or you're not dissolved. Try to keep reaching out to them. I'll do my best to try to get them to listen to taking the high road. But
And that does cut both ways, because I've had those kinds of conversations. Well, you've heard me, and asked to sit down and speak with them. Nothing. Nothing.
We'll just keep asking.
I gotta say, you gotta keep asking, and
Okay.
Listen, I'm pretty friendly with most of those supervisors, and I respect every one of them. But I'm telling you, we have to figure out how to work together. And when I say they shut people down, I'm talking, Ron gets up there, listen, I don't know Ron very well. But I'll tell you, I'm gonna give him my respect. He's older than me. I'm gonna respect him. He knows what he's talking about. He has a lot to put into it. They don't even let him talk. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he talks. He gets his 3 minutes.
Well, and it goes beyond that too, excuse me,
the
Ray. It's
disrespect.
the misinformation that's out there, and then when we try and correct it, as we just did, and we have an opportunity to, that's when people get shut down.
I understand, but we can't. We gotta stop this. What they're doing this, and they're doing. We gotta stop this.
The public needs to hear what we are doing. The public needs to know that we're acting sincerely in their interest, fact-based, and then they can make an intelligent decision.
Have you gone on their agenda? Have you asked for time on their agenda?
They won't even talk.
I haven't been around. I haven't been in the last.
I've written them letters, I get nothing. No response. I calls.
They gave a local resident time on the agenda recently. So I would say.
Well, 3 minutes is not gonna.
No. This person got very broad access. So you guys should be able to get the same treatment.
I would hope so.
But like I said, try to take the high road.
If you have any ideas on how to solve our biggest problem right now, and that's just getting people to sit down without disrespecting each other, please let us know.
I have the benefit of not having been a party to the detentions.
Me as well. And that's why I'm trying to help, because I think, I look at it as I'm an outside deal. I'm the outsider on this board. I own a business here in town. My wife owns a business. We know a lot of the residents. I hear their concerns. So my reason for coming on here was I could give a little bit of both sides. I could say as a business person, hey, this is what I think. And as a business owner and having so many friends in the community, I hear what they're saying. And I hear their concerns. And listen, when we go up in a meeting, I voice their concerns. All these guys will tell you that. And we've all had concerns of different parts of this. How much testing there is. Where is the tank going? Where is the septic field going? Is it going to be a danger to the community? We want the same answers that you guys have.
Like I said, I hope you all, I respect all of you, but know, I will say, we've got to stop, we've got to stop attacking each other because this is toxic. This is
But
toxic.
I think tonight's
Yeah.
is a good example of the conversation we're trying to.
Right, but, you know, misinformation, you know, at one point, RPL was presenting, and I miscalculated the size of the building or something. That was misinformation, but it wasn't intentional.
That's an act.
That was just, I didn't, the engineer couldn't do math, all right? But, so, you know.
Blame it on the calculator.
But, I mean, let's, the misinformation thing is thrown around too much as well. You know, if you're gonna talk about misinformation, then give explicit examples, because this throwing out misinformation, it's like, you believe anything you hear in the press. So I'm gonna let everyone go, because it's time to, like, go home, so.
Okay.
All right, so, thank you.
Okay. Okay,
Oh, no.
Ma'am, come on up, come on up. Come on up.
What was that? I'm sorry. Pauline Clark. So I have issues.
What's your address, Paul?
19%.
Okay.
This municipal authority was formed on September 11th. That meeting, I don't know how many of you were there.
I was there.
I know you were there. It was a 3-2 vote. Everything was a 3-2 vote. The reasons why you went ahead with it were for your feelings. Because there wasn't, the engineer was suggesting that you do a feasibility study. You said no. Mr. Dew was saying, we've been wanting this forever, so it's Groundhog Day, let's just do it. The 20-year-old comprehensive plan was cited. It's never been updated. None of the proof that what you wanted to do with the town was there. But you went ahead and you did it against the engineer's recommendations. And there was no discussion. You could have talked to your supervisors then, they were there. The two of them voted against it because they wanted to be thorough. So all this stuff about, let's sit down and talk, why aren't they talking with us? Well, why didn't you talk to them then?
We did talk.
No, but I saw,
Not at the
I had
meeting.
to walk out of that meeting because I was so frustrated.
Not at the meeting.
Some of us weren't even part of this at that point in our defense, that, at least I wasn't, a big part in anything that was happening in the township. I kind of came into this later, and I am one up here voicing my opinion that somehow we all have to work together.
So
And
Well, and this is why they asked to dissolve it. They want to start over, get the feasibility study. And I was on board with that because I saw a lot of things happen that were being pushed through very quickly without following what the engineer's recommendations were.
Now.
So maybe certain things were in place before, but we had no 537 plan.
Okay.
So all these things that should have been dealt with. And this wasn't going to solve any of the poison that's going into the water on 611. This is to solve RPL's problem. Is it still the case? Are you only dealing with RPL, or are you going to fix the issues on 611?
To fix.
And you have no bylaws.
So hold
Are
on.
bylaws done before you form something and before you take your official actions? And then you
The
said
solicitor
you sent a
can answer
letter.
that.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
It's okay.
You and myself, but I want to get this
Go
sorted
ahead.
out.
And I'll answer each one of those. Okay.
All right, so you wrote a letter to the Board of Supervisors that came in the day before they were going to dissolve you.
I wrote a
That was
letter.
the first time that the letter that was talked about at that meeting. We sent you a letter. Why won't you talk to us? Why won't you talk to us? The letter just got there.
Not
You had
that
already
day.
formed, and you had already taken your first official actions. So these are the reasons why I'm upset. You guys talk like everybody's so bad. They're not listening, but it was in fact really a lot of your own fault. You weren't listening.
you know that when they went to dissolve us, they had tabled it. And then Lou stood up and they had an argument. And because of that argument, they came after us. And that is not how you do things, or how you run, or how you solve problems.
As instant as it seems, because it goes back. to
We
September
aren't a
11th.
representative of Lou. Period. We are a representative for this township. So for them to table something and give us, they agreed to meet us and sit down and have a conversation, which I thought was phenomenal. And then because one of them got mad at Lou and they had an argument, they dissolved the authority. And that's not how you want someone to run your town.
But if you were listening to me, it didn't actually happen like that. They
I
were
was
just
there.
mad.
I was there.
I stood up and
I
talked.
saw that happen, but that's not where it started. It started on September 11th when it got passed.
And I will
It got
disagree
passed.
with you with that, okay?
But
And
we
let
had
me-
an agreement,
hold on, Ray.
we had talked to them and had an agreement to table it so we could sit down and discuss it with them. The people,
But Ray, this was
So-
months.
I understand that, but that agreement
It
was
actually
not
started,
supposed to be that.
hold on,
Go ahead.
hold on. So, this actually starts, and we touched upon a lot of it tonight in regards to the 537 plan. The feasibility study that Coyle is talking about is done and necessary for the 537 plan because we were solely at that time looking at the 537 plan to solve the issue of the sewage on 611. Okay, so the feasibility study of needing a sewage plant and an authority was done back when I first joined the board.
And you needed to correct the problems on 611.
That's correct, but we didn't move forward with it in terms of doing it because the township did not have the funds to build the plant. Because you, the township, not necessarily the taxpayers, would have the note to pay for a $15 million sewage plant. Okay? That's 5 times the amount of our budget. That is way over leveraged. Okay? That'd be like you buying a house 5 times as large as you need it, or a mortgage 5 times that you can afford. Could not happen. That's the reason why. Not because we didn't want to do it, because we know it needs to be done because of the studies
So what are you doing?
that are done.
Are you going to take care of it now? 611, why is RPL the priority?
Because RPL is paying for the plant. So we're able to utilize RPL to pay for the plant so that that cost is not on your shoulders, it's not on Fran's shoulders, or anybody else's shoulders. We're not dependent on taxpayer money. Whether it comes from the state of Pennsylvania or not, the township is not liable for that. It's private funds to pay for that plant, okay? That's the reason why, one of the reasons why I voted for the authority was because I knew without that, we would not get a plant for 0 cost. I would not want to burden our taxpayers with the cost of new construction, okay? Which is the reason why we said, as soon as the plant's built, we're not taking it over. It needs to show an operational revenue for a minimum of 4 months before we take it over. Because the revenues at that time, not anything along 611, that's your base and operations comes from the development down below. That's what keeps your overhead, your lights, and everything else on. That's solely self-supportive. With that, we now have the option of saying, okay, we can now utilize 611.
Okay, so how many houses have a problem on 611?
In the 537 plan, it calls out, I believe, 60 some odd houses, if not more than that.
I believe it's
88. We had a lot of the testing, and I forget how far up it goes. I think it goes up past Dollar General's right here. I think it goes up to 512.
Yeah.
Airlick Week. It goes all the way up to Airlick Week. But it tests it tests coming out of the creek in the back. There was even, it was cited in the study when we had the consultant come in to do the water samples. He thought the township played a joke on him and actually took a sample out of a septic tank, when it was actually out of the creek, right along the back. It's very
And
bad.
that's why it
So,
will be a long, long time
it-
before that happens, because the park that was allocated to the town
Yeah.
was supposed to use a drip field that exists in the park, which has been
Now,
no longer in the picture.
So now, the drip field for the park is the exact same area where you will now get a septic field for the bathrooms at the park. And it will actually be septic coming out of that rather than treated effluent. It's in the same area. There's no difference. It'll be a septic field.
Because Teal has said several times, it's off the table, they're not gonna use, right?
We don't have to, and we don't have to put it there, okay? Then it's up to the township to find land to put it on. So the township is handcuffing itself for helping these folks on 611 because we're saying the drip field that would en masse all 80 houses or however want to join it or need it, we now say, well, we can't put you on it.
You're talking about the drip field behind my house?
Not you, no. Everybody thinks it's the park, it's like it's the playing circuit, it's not. In the master plan for the park, okay, when it was all drawn up and everything else, there were bathrooms that were designed to go into the park, okay? The septic, because of the soils that are up there, you've got to be able to put it in certain areas depending on the gallonage and everything else. With the bathrooms being built now, that septic field, okay, that's going to be at the park is in the same area that the drip irrigation field will be. There's no difference. The only difference is that you will get sewage coming out and dripping down through, rather than treated effluent out of a plant to go into the ground. So that's one of the things that I can't, for some reason, I can't get folks to understand is that where the drip irrigation, where we talk about the field, is the same exact field that septic is going to be put in for the bathrooms at the township
So
park.
it's in the agreement that you're going to use the town park for.
No, that's not in
So
the
not
agreement.
that-
It's not there.
But it's going to be that area, that's what you're saying?
I'm saying if you wanted it to be. What I'm saying is that there's no and what I'm saying is that the bathrooms that they're putting in now, they're going to put a septic field in the same area that we would have drip irrigation.
I understand.
Okay.
But from what I understood from all the other meetings, because people were getting up and they were upset that the park was being used for that.
But it's being used now.
But Teal kept saying no.
No, and we took it out.
We
took it out.
So you have no plan.
We have no plan
for
for the drip field for 611, but that creates an issue because there is no area designated within the township now to satisfy the effluent for the houses on 611. We would either need to combine with Portland, which is the reason why we're looking at the capacity study, to send that effluent to their plant if they have enough capacity. Okay?
So if you had done the 537 plan, all of this would have gone away.
The 537 plan was complete.
I heard there were technical issues.
There's nothing technical wrong with the 537.
So how many years ago was
That was done 2018, 19. I think that was my second year on the board that we were going through that. And that Justin's firm did the 537. Technically, it is a very, very sound plan. The reason why, if you heard me before, the reason why it got kicked back by the DEP is that it lacked information from Portland and from East Bangor. That constitutes it not being complete, so it was denied. Okay?
So I've said like these,
I hope I answered some questions for you.
I mean, I still have concerns
Mhm.
about and I don't, still think there was enough planning done ahead of time. I heard no kind of plan for if accidental chemicals get in the drip fields.
That,
Where all the drip fields are gonna be for the entire park, or just the one that's for the zoning area.
that's a completely different area.
Still,
That's a completely
municipal,
different area.
And we were supposed to be planning for all this capacity and disaster recovery for if something happens, how do we work?
When you start, and in regards to the design of the plant and the safeguards that go in there, and Charlie can back me up on this if I get anything wrong, because he is the resident expert and has dealt with probably hundreds of these, is the pre-treatment. So it's not just the plant. So you have the central plant, but each building, depending on what industry goes in there, you will design a pre-treatment system that pre-treats it before it gets sent to the plant. And there are a bunch of safeguards that we can put in regards to making sure that if anything, depending on the testing, because there's pre-tests before it even gets pumped up to our plant that need to be met before it goes through.
I do understand that, and
Okay.
I like to understand how things work, so I do a lot of my own reading. I know that it's based on MSDS, right, so when I was reading about that, it's like, if there's a trade secret, they don't have to let anybody know about the chemicals that they use.
So, no, so they have to inform by EPA rules, any identified substance that would harm the environment that's on the list has to be identified for it to go out through a sewer system. They don't have to identify it if it doesn't discharge into the sewer. And what you'll find with a lot of industrial facilities is they choose to segment their waste between process waste and residential waste. And the process waste gets in the tanks and out so that it doesn't come through, because when it does, we usually see it, it causes a problem, and we hold. One of the parts of this plant is there is scheduled to be, part of it is 600,000 gallons on the discharge side to hold that effluent so that we have, in addition to a couple other EQ tanks within the process, so that there is room that if something happens, we've got plenty of volume there that we can prevent it from going out into the system. And then the industrial, as he said, you go through the industrial pre-treatment. I'm doing several of those, and it's a process you go through. With each one of them, you do a bunch of testing before you accept any waste from them. And we carry through with both regular and surprise testing. It's how you protect. It's about all you can do. Turns out, by the way, the worst chemicals that most of them use, we have to get them to stop for the cleaning chemicals, floor cleaners, those kind of things turn out to be kind of fun sometimes. But, yeah.
So, accidents still happen.
Yep, your concern was our concern. We
Well,
asked for more testing.
I understand that. I would also like to know, I would like to see you work on a recovery plan. If something gets into the
System.
outside of the system, into the drip fields, you're not going to be able to remediate it.
I would like
It's
to,
so costly. I want to know, because if something happens to the well water in this town, and every single person in this town relies on well water, and they will for a very long time.
Gotcha.
And especially if it's optional, which I agree with, okay? What's your disaster recovery plan? Who's going to pay for it? What are people on wells going to do in the meantime?
so I think the added testing would be one of our safeguards. And then, and Marty might be able to address this or answer it. I almost think that there would be some kind of bond or something to protect the residents from something like that happening.
I would like to see something in writing. What's the timing? When it's identified, you're going to notify all
Well,
of
your
the
disa-
residents that have wells. Who's going to pay for it?
Your disaster recovery, and it's really a disaster recovery plan.
Accident recovery. I mean, I come
Yeah, but
Recreation management.
the government calls it disaster recovery, and it's,
IT calls it disaster.
They-
recovery,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
so that
You need a plan.
there is
When
that.
things go wrong.
And Charlie, I believe we have to have that in our operation of the plan. Otherwise, you do not get approval for it.
It's part of the permitting of the
It's
plan.
the permitting of it.
So it's part of what's required to go through the permitting process of the plan, is to have those type of plans. Yeah.
So, most towns, if you have a municipal building, people are on municipal water. I mean, that's why normally you build.
It's a mix. So to be frank, yes, in most cases, if you're in a more urban or suburban area, there's both. Frankly, we're seeing a lot more now where the houses just, they were built long enough ago, small lots, there's not enough room for a second septic field. They really didn't have a good septic field to start with, so they have failing septic. So there's a lot more townships where we're putting in just sewer treatment. Because of discharge laws, we're getting a lot more community, called community on lots, where we buy a field and we put in a giant disposal field of some sort, giant being a relative term. And one of the advantages of the drip or spray is that you treat it first, so you're sending effluent there. And one of the biggest hazard mitigation steps is preventing it from going. So having those big wide spots in the line that you're testing, you're observing, so that you don't put it out there. But so we are seeing quite a few of those going on. Doing a couple of 537 plans. That's what we're trying to determine, is if there's a density of need for us to do that. We know there's failing septic. You don't want to, as Marty said, the economy of scale plays into the decision. So that is something that would be developed by the township and their authority going forward, is how to serve the people. This plan allots capacity in the plant for serving people. It will need a disposal option of some sort, and it will need a system to collect sewer and the rules that go along with that from people too. Neither one of those are in the plan currently. Nobody outside of the industrial park actually has lines going by their house.
Well, and that's why we're here. You see, I think what you've just noticed is this board is dedicated to a very narrow issue. Unlike the Board of Supervisors that has all kinds of issues that they have to deal with, here we can devote ourselves entirely to this issue with the expertise at the table that can contribute to that. So. Got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. This is where we're starting, and there's a lot of work to be done. But with comments like yours,
your comments
you know,
great.
it becomes it gives us the opportunity to work with you.
This was the kind of analysis that they wanted to be done ahead of time. So
this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and your questions are fantastic.
Yeah, that's the way to handle it. Give us a chance to engage.
With all due respect, and I realize hindsight's 2020. Why, as a supervisor, didn't you do something like this prior to December 29th? To sit down and go through all the stuff so that we had better understanding back then. So when you push through the authority on the 29th of the year, knowing you only have 2 days left in office, maybe there wouldn't be so much opposition and angst in the group, like me.
Mike, you have to give us the benefit of the doubt.
No,
You
right.
have to realize it's a whole different group of people up here.
I'm
I know there's a
talking
couple
about
of
you.
familiar
I'm talking
faces.
about, you and I had some conversations.
Yeah.
And I recognize that you have a lot of good information. And I think the town is ridiculous to not
speak to you, to talk to you, to get some advice from you on the right way to proceed. Because I agree with you that the board is pretty inexperienced. But if you had done a meeting like this prior to December 29th and laid out what the board, the authority is really going to do, what your goal is, how you're going to work with RPF, I don't think there'll be as much of us pissed off as we are.
No, Ray, yeah. Mike, if you remember, we had 2 hearings on it. Okay? And we were actually in this very firehouse when we had those hearings and really presented what the authority was going to do. And the reason why I felt that the authority was in the best interest of the township. Okay? And it turned into a mob mentality where it was just fire and brimstone. And you're sitting there trying to have a conversation. And there's a point where you get attacked so much that after a few times, you're sitting there going, you're not going to be able, they're hearing or they're not listening or they're hearing, but they don't care. Not that they don't care, but it's tuned down.
Excuse me, Marty.
But
There's
now I
a
think you're
difference
getting a little
between
taste of, the team that's been assembled, the attitude that the people at this table have, the motivation, the expertise, and the intentions. You're now seeing it. Maybe back then, it wasn't nearly as apparent. Nor have.
We didn't have a board.
Well, that's right. So now you see the board, you see what we're doing, you're seeing the motivations of the guys that are sitting at the front table, you see the expertise that we brought to the table with our engineer. So maybe you can develop a little bit of a better comfort level with us. And I think maybe we've generated that so far this evening.
I don't disagree.
And I for one would like to see this expanded. As long as it's not in a confrontational setting, as long as it's kept at low key, calm voices, and let's get that interchange back and forth. We can answer a lot of questions.
Well, going back to what Marty said, just let me say this a minute ago, not to give a leadership lesson, but what happened in those meetings was everybody was listening. Oh, we're listening. You were listening to respond, and now you're listening to understand. You have some good questions. It's not just coming back at what's being presented. It's really trying to think about it and understand, and that's the key difference here on both sides for sure. But just listening to respond means admittedly you didn't have all the information, right? It was available. A lot of it was available, but people were responding and saying things that just absolutely weren't even true.
With all due respect, I asked at more than one meeting, and I asked Martin, and I asked Mr. Teal, explain to me, I recognize that this is going to benefit RPL. Explain to me how it benefits up in Mount Bethel Township. And I believe I never got an answer, at least it didn't satisfy my question. Now, I had no idea how many homes on 611 were in dire distress. Had none. I've only lived here 10 years, so I don't know the history about the 537 plan, all that stuff. You get it in bits and pieces as you go along. But I think a meeting like this is very helpful.
This is the first meeting we've ever been at where it's an open conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
It's actually enjoyable to hear you guys because we can respond in a way without yelling. And I will tell you, I'm in the same boat as you. I had no idea about the 611 corridor when I bought that barn. And anytime you want to come and look at my water, you'll understand why I'm sitting at this table. It is disgusting. It is my water smells so bad, it is disgusting.
Lisa has this.
Ray, you sure it's not you?
It could be after work and all that, depending on whose house I'm in.
Lisa, you'll be the last one.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Lisa Becker with River.
Ron, you got 3 minutes after.
It might be helpful if we provide copies of the presentations that our engineer had done to the township in the past, as well as the transcripts we had from the meeting, so that there's a record that could then be, Tracy with the open records or the authority, the public can revisit binder that was submitted to the township. I'm actually going to be giving my one copy to Fred Clark tomorrow. So Fred
So-
can share
Is
amongst
there-
your friends tonight.
Is there any way we can get that on some sort of drive that just upload?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I don't wanna be
I
sitting
think
here
so.
I have
and
one
saying
that
we
you
gotta
can
cut
read
down
from
more
our-
trees for all this paper.
So we put on 2 presentations about sewer. I believe both in this room. And most of it was done by Fred Ebert with a lot of technical information, a lot of charts and stuff. And I believe that we also have a stenographic record of that. We're gonna give that to you or to who? Or to the authority. We'll make it available electronically. If I don't see any reason why we couldn't. It will give you all the information that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but you don't give me the technical information because it's.
Well, there,
Mike, it's a good read.
So.
I have it if you wanna read it. I'm serious, you'll
Fred's
learn
got
a lot.
bedtime.
Good characters?
I read it and I was like,
Have you
holy
read
crap,
War
I
and
didn't know
Peace?
half of this stuff.
Yeah, it's good
Right,
bedtime
you're
reading. It's
talking
around
about-
War and Peace.
I'm
It's right
talking
to have it for all
about the
these-
transcripts from the public presentation that was
Oh, I'm
made.
talking about your book. The book's fantastic. It has every fact you need to know.
But the best way to deal with this is by question and answer, as you've seen tonight. There's a lot of questions that people have. We'd like to be able to give them answers to their questions. This is the forum that we have created. I think we've set a standard by which public meetings ought to be held, where there is an interchange. There's no 3-minute rule. We've kept it low key. No one's raised their voice up front. No one's been shut down. There's been a lot of mutual respect back and forth. And, those volumes, you can read them until you're blue in the face, okay, and you fall asleep. Bottom line is, if you have questions, we'll try to find answers for you. We've got the expertise at the front table to do it. And if we don't have an answer, we'll get one for you. And I think that's the only way we're going to cut through this morass and try to solve the problems that this sewer issue has created.
Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Ron, you're the last one, because I'd like to eat dinner.
3 minutes to make my mind.
All right.
Hey, Ron, don't piss anybody off.
Yeah, please. We've had a good meeting.
It's too late for that.
Good idea.
I just want to say, there's a lot of confusion about the text amendment. Tell me if I'm not correct about the text amendment. Mr. Coyle approved the text amendment and Mr. Birmingham voted for it. Is that correct?
Mr. Birmingham did not. Mr. Birmingham did not vote
Okay.
for
Mr.
the
Coyle
text
recommended
amendment.
it though?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, he did.
When he was in the park, he stood up as a citizen and told us what he thought.
July 10th.
Not July 10th. September, when they voted on
Can
it.
you just listen to what he tells you?
So Fran, they're and I'm going back to when I was a supervisor. I'm not speaking as the authority. I'm speaking as a citizen in regards to what I can recall being on the board at that time. Okay. John and Bob were tasked with negotiating the text amendment. Okay. And they did for a variety of hours. I think John is on record from an interview, the interviews that he used to do. Lee McDonald used to go in when he would interview Justin Coyle, he would interview Ed, he would interview even Doc when it was the COVID time and that type of stuff. And at that time, which was pretty late in the process of the text amendment and the reasons why we were doing it, compared to what the zoning was for the area, because the zoning was rather old. It hadn't kept up with what was happening in the marketplace around us. It was stagnant. So John and Bob were negotiating with RPL in regards to the text amendment that they sent us for an industrial park, because the zoning at the time didn't go into specific details. It said industrial, but it didn't go into an industrial park. So it kind of really narrowed down into what the zoning would be for an industrial park. Okay? So John and Bob were the ones that would go down and have the meetings. At that time, I was too busy with my job to really get into it. And John, being a lawyer and everything, was hammered down on it. Okay? And those guys did a wonderful job in regards to negotiating that text amendment. Okay? Really, I think Bob was more of the mouthpiece in terms of saying what was going on at meetings, in terms of what was being negotiated. I remember there were numerous reiterations of that document. I want to say there was probably, if I remember correctly, maybe 10. If I remember 10 iterations from what originally was presented to the township. And Justin was included in a lot of those meetings because a lot of it had to do with his knowledge in regards to steep slopes, in regards to just the overall complexity of the environment in terms of the hillsides and the topography and what would need to happen to build down there. Within that, there was an interview that Lee McDonald did with Ed, with Justin, and with John. When John specifically talked, it was nothing but the text amendment. And he went and asked Justin what his thoughts were and why is the town protected through the text amendment more than the original zoning that was down there, the prior zoning that was down there. And if the text amendment was the proper way to move forward with the change of the zoning. Okay? And Justin went on and said, this is exactly how we need to go through. Otherwise, they need to go through planning for variances and all of this other stuff. And so Justin said, I believe this is the correct way of doing this. Now, from that point in time, and this is my opinion, okay, from that point in time to when we had the meeting in the park, so this may have been maybe a month, a couple of weeks, because I remember when that video came out that the discussion was going to be had at the Firehouse. And between that point in time, we moved it to the park. Because of COVID, where we felt with the amount of people, the Firehouse wasn't big enough, so we moved it to the park. So between the time of that video and the time in that park, something changed where John and Justin were not in favor of it anymore. Okay, I don't know what it was. John never came to me as the treasurer at that time and said, I've got major reservations about this and why. Justin never got a hold of me as a board member or in that time before that where he said, everything is good from my end, everything's perfect, the township is protected, from the time of that meeting where he completely said the opposite. I don't know what changed for him because I wasn't communicated with on what that change was. So I voted from what I knew and what I felt was in the best interest moving forward. And a lot of people didn't agree with it. That's okay.
Majority of people there voted no.
Well,
a lot of people stood up and asked you not to vote on this. I mean, you really gave them no problems, you know, yeah, I lost track of it. This man over here, I never said anything before, but him at that last meeting in the park gave DeFranco a cigar, and DeFranco goes, he was passing cigars out that meeting. Why? Because Petra bought his land, because he knew what Petra
If you ask anybody in the area, they'll tell you I hand out probably more cigars than,
It
Jack
didn't
Benny.
look right at that meeting.
Not that many people know who Jack Benny is.
Didn't those explode?
It's just that there was
If I could finish.
700 people who signed petitions asking you to vote no against it.
So Fran,
I can walk to my car right now.
Ron,
I'll go get Ron.
Ron, stop.
Ron, you have
Stop.
the floor.
You have the floor, please,
Thank you. I
to the
wish I
board,
could.
to the board.
The point I'm trying to make is, this group is not political. I don't see an ounce of political here. What I see is 5 people who, if I had a corporation, I'm looking for a board of directors, I would certainly consider all 5 of you. You have an interest in what you're doing, and you really care about it, which is kind of unique in this day and age when you deal with government. But the problem with our current board of supervisors is.
Well, this isn't a board of
I
supervisors.
understand, but it's very political there. But I just want to say that, again, this thing with Portland does go back a long time. I go back in history here too long, I guess. I don't want to mention the entity, but there was another entity in the township actually wanted to break away from the township and form a borough. Well, it never materialized, quite frankly. And for years, the township, many years ago, felt that Portland was the distant cousin, and they should just join in with the township, and they really didn't need to be. We were all on the river, it was kind of the same thing. And somehow that has passed on down through, because most of the people there are new. But when you look at Portland Borough, they just had 2 vacancies on Borough Council that they couldn't fill. They finally filled 1. I mean, there's people who don't even want to serve on the council center, but they see that sewage treatment plant as their baby. That's their baby, although it's only at 20% capacity, as I recall. They've got to pour sugar in to make it go. I have property there. They're forever sending you a notice. Somebody's dumping stuff down the drain, wrong stuff, and they don't know who's dumping it down, which is almost hard for me to believe. But I just want to finish up by saying, what a treat it was to be here tonight and listen to 5 people who really give a damn about the township and are trying to do something that they believe is the right thing to do. Maybe some people don't think it is. They think it is, frankly. I'm willing to listen more. I can tell you this, way back when, I'm the person who, as best I recall, originally tested those houses on the main drag, Tower Avenue. And when I did it, it was funny about the story about what septic tank. John Dennis was the engineer for the township at the time, RPRS. And it was a question about the river and a couple of ponds. So I went around, I was a supervisor, and I took, I think, like 15 samples of these little bottles, and I gave them back to John. And he called me up and he said, I know you got a good sense of humor. He said, whose septic tank did you take number 13 around? I said, well, let me look. I have a thing where I wrote down where they were. Oh, I said, it's just off of Potomac Street, that little stream that trickles down through there. He said, are you sure? I said, come on down, I'll buy you lunch, I'll give you a cigar, we'll go test it again. And he did come down, and he took it back, and he said, I got the same results as the last time. Those people on 611, it really is sad. Because you can say, okay, get the ultraviolet system, that'll solve your problem. That really doesn't solve the problem. That sewage problem has been there forever. And again, it's only gotten worse because look at history. I'm sure most people out here will remember this too. Years ago, you didn't have a dishwasher. You wash your dishes in the sink. You didn't have all these automatic dishwashers. You didn't a ringer thing. You put them out on the line. We generate more water use and storage as a result of that than we ever did before, which means whatever the problem was there on 611 has only gotten worse.
I knew it was bad when, it may have been my first year on the board, we had to sign these waivers. The town had to sign off, or the town had to have the homeowner sign off when a new well was being dug, if it was within a certain footage. And some of these footages between the septic mound and the well, it was like 15 feet, 25 feet. And then I'm like, wow, this is, and I think we may have done 4 or 5 my first year. And that's really when we started looking at the 537 to say, we got a problem here. Yeah.
We're afraid to give the water to our animals.
And it's not just a case of somebody's drinking their own crap water, it's your neighbor's crap water you might be drinking, because those towns on 611, there's not 100 feet between anything.
Okay.
Anyway, I just want to thank you
Cigars
for
for
being open
everybody.
and talking with us.
I like that.
And I would hope that the Board of Supervisors does sit down with you, because maybe they disagree, but then they should tell you why they disagree, and you should tell them why you think this is the right thing to do.
Just like a lot of the residents that stood up with the good questions tonight, they'll have questions that will be good also.
So, and now that the ask for a motion to adjourn is over an hour and a half.
Sorry.
I think that the conversation was good, and I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation back and forth with all of you tonight. And I hope that you guys may have learned something new, or at least will be open to having more conversations with us, because we really, really want to make sure that the folks and our fellow citizens are taken care of. So, with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Hurry up.
I'll make it.
All right. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank God. Good night. Enjoy your dinner.